Welcome to Green Building Matters, the podcast that matters for green building professionals. Learn insight in green buildings as we interview today's experts in LEED and WELL. We'll learn from their career paths, war stories, and all things green, because green building matters. And now our host, and yes, he has every LEED and WELL credential. Here's Charlie Cicchetti.
Be sure to check out the Green Building Matters community, where you can have unlimited exam prep for any of the professional credential exams you're tackling next, as well as putting your continuing education on autopilot, saving time with GBES reporting your hours on your behalf. Check it out, gbes.com/join. Now, enjoy this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kenyona Pierre. She's coming to us from Miami. Can't wait to get into her green building journey. Kenyona, how you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love doing the podcast once a week here, and I can't wait to talk about where you're at in your journey, some of the exams you're tackling, and I know you're even involved with the Green Building Matters community, taking lots of practice tests. We'll get to all that, but I always like to ask, hey, where'd you grow up and go to school?
Okay, well, I am a native to Miami, Florida. I was introduced to engineering in high school, and at that time, I wanted to be an architect, so kind of was open-minded about it and was like, hey, why don't I just do both? So I pursued architectural engineering at Tennessee State. And then upon graduation, I got a job at an MEP firm and was in their sustainable group for, it was a little bit of time. I was in there before I pursued another educational degree.
Fantastic. So. Yeah. Now, let's talk about some of the degrees. So that architectural engineering degree, I'm seeing that become more and more popular. Can you tell us a little more about that? Maybe there's someone listening that's debating on, hey, what should they major in? But, what did you get out of that?
Well, what I got out of it is the best of both worlds. It was one of those niches in engineering that really don't get much, it just doesn't get as much accolades as it should. It's basically engineering the systems of a building that are engineering the systems of all the systems. We focus on the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, acoustics, even go into the facade of a building as well as the construction management portion of it. So usually in an architectural engineering program, they cover all of those bases. And then towards your senior or junior year, you kind of branch off into an actual focus. So that way you can, say I'm an architectural engineer, but I specialize in the mechanical systems of a building, or I specialize in the plumbing and electrical, or I just specialize in the structural of the building. So we don't necessarily do the actual design of the building, but we do design the systems that are the components of the building.
A lot more systems and how it all works together. That's smart. And so we got a job, but then you went back for some postgraduate work, kind of back to back. So tell us about some of your advanced degrees.
Well, I started out getting a master's in civil engineering and went into, because I wanted a little bit more of a world broad educational aspect, or be a little bit more marketable to the field, because around that time, I think the market was very, very slow. And I thought it would be a great time to go ahead and just kind of pursue the civil engineering portion. And I hated it. So I wanted to do more management and went and got an MBA, because I figured I already have an engineering degree. So let me get the marketable skills that I need to be able to be a little bit more into project management. And at that time, I still wanted to be involved in sustainability. So I got my sustainability knowledge within the community by getting back involved with USGBC and going to a lot of events and trying to, do little events and workshops to kind of educate the younger masses at that time. And so it kind of went from there.
No, it makes sense. It makes lots of sense. And so is that where you became sustainability minded? Was it in college, or maybe were you raised around just kind of an environmental influence? Where did you get that kind of, I want to do something with sustainability?
Well, it actually started I got introduced to it my senior year of my undergraduate degree program, that's around the time where you try and figure out, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Or what am I going to do with this degree? Because going into an architectural engineering program, a lot of people, myself included, tend to think, oh, I'm going to do an architectural engineering degree and I'm going to be an architect, or I'm going to still have some of the architect skills, not realizing that you're a full-blown engineer and you need to be looking for engineering work. But then it started getting frustrating because a lot of the people that are, looking for engineers are not knowledgeable in your discipline. So they don't know what an architectural engineer is or what they can do. So it started to get a little bit frustrating. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that really I was focused on or passionate about. And I ended up taking an elective class that was energy conservation in buildings. And that's when the light bulb went out. I said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This makes sense. This I like. This is what I'm going to do. And so that's where it really all started. But, of course, from childhood, there's little instances and opportunities that occur, but you don't really connect the dots until you have that one aha moment. And that was my aha moment. And I've just kind of been hooked ever since.
Well, it's fun when we can picture, hey, that was the defining moment. That was the aha moment. So let's talk about who else might have had some influence on you so far in your career. Did you have any mentors so far along the way?
I like to say the sustainability community is my mentor, because I don't have one particular person per se that I could say is my actual mentor, but it's a lot of people along the journey and along the way. I have a lot of support from my close-knit family and friends. Like, I don't have a huge circle, but I will say that the support from them is what kind of helped me to be able to, go after what I was desiring, because even though they may not have understood it, they made sure that I stayed accountable and they listened to me, and, just kind of was just that backbone, that pillar for me to just get the momentum to just go after a lot of the opportunities, that some of them that I were able to obtain and some of them that I wasn't, but kind of kept me focused mind on, hey, this is what you want to do. If this is really what you want to do, go ahead and go after it. I did get a mentor about a year or two ago, when I was afforded the opportunity to go through the inaugural cohort for AIA Miami Christopher Kelly Leadership Development Program. And my cohort, I think, is awesome. And the mentors and the leadership within AIA Miami has been very instrumental. And then I have a mentor who's an architect that has kind of steered me in the right direction. So I just like to say the sustainability community has just been a really big help and really been supportive. So they're kind of like, that's kind of been my mentor.
I love it. It's important to have mentors, some we know in person, some we just know from their work, their influence. We follow them and they just give us a lot of, excitement and just want to follow them. So far, Kenyona, what are some achievements you're really proud of so far in your career or in life?
Okay, well, finally taking and passing the Lead GA is one of them. Yeah. Obtaining my MBA is one of my other achievements, because I did it, but I was like, this is different. Do I really want to do it? But I, pressed forward and achieved and got that. The leadership development program through AIA Miami is another one of my proudest achievements. Serving as the chair and president of the local USGBC chapter, that was another one of my proudest achievements. And meeting Mahesh and Rick at the same time in the same room was a proud achievement of mine.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. Now, you're doing a lot of good things, and it's great to always stay involved with our local USGBC chapters and other trade organizations. Just that's a place that I think I'll challenge anyone listening. It's helped me a lot too in my career, but just lean into your local trade organizations, your local chapters, volunteer, get on some committees, really bring them the latest that they need to be hosting events around or some education. So way to go. But to have Rick and Mahesh, who now, fast forward to today, right? Mahesh running the USGBC and Rick now over IWBI and the WELL movement. Yeah, you had two very important people. That must have been a great chat. Let's talk about some projects and some of the work you're doing today. So, a couple career highlights, and then what's keeping you busy today?
Okay, so, couple of career highlights. Well, right now I am doing a lot of sustainability documentation. I won't say that it's strictly toward lead documenting, but it is a lot of sustainability documentation. So I'm really learning the aspect of the background behind how you get a building certified. I spent so many years just advocating for the movement and learning as much as I can about the benefits of, green building and sustainability, that it's completely different once you actually get into the trenches and start, documentation and trying to go through the actual process of certifying the buildings. And so it's a lot of project management, and I'm learning to kind of utilize and hone in on the skills that I obtained in my MBA program. And so a lot of the projects that I've been working on, it's a mix. It's definitely a mix. It's a lot of mixed use, not hospitals, hotels, residential, some schools, and a couple of government buildings. And I just think that those are the things that I'm currently working on right now. And my focus is just basically trying to really learn the process a lot better, especially when it comes to lead documentation, what's the most efficient and effective way of doing it, and then coming up with some new processes to do that. So it's a lot more administrative. I went into it thinking that I would be a little bit more technical and, wanting to do a little bit more energy modeling and BIM rendering and modeling and things of that nature, just kind of get a little bit of the technical aspects. So now I'm kind of focused on trying to see how I can, blend the two and just be that liaison in that aspect and be able to apply it to any and all sorts of buildings.
No, it's good to have more tools in the tool belt, so to speak. And I know you've got some different credentials. So let's talk about that a little bit. And, tell us a little bit about, the EcoDistricts AP, the EcoDistricts Accredited Professional. Why'd you get that one? And tell us about it. I don't have that one.
Oh, well, the EcoDistrict AP was actually a right place at the right time. And it's something that is basically geared towards, merging sustainability with neighborhoods and the actual district. So just creating actual sustainable districts within your community. And it's a really good program in as far as wanting to basically educate not only the community, but bringing the sustainable minded folk where you're not basically focused on an actual credential. You're not certifying an actual building, but you're just basically saying that, hey, this is an actual district. We have applied a lot of sustainable principles to this district. We have these features in order to have this commitment. And so it takes not just the stakeholders of the architects and engineers, but it takes a lot of the community input as well as the community officials into how do we want this district to look, or how do we want to reinvent this space sustainably. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I kind of got into it, because I liked sustainable development. So it's more along the lines of sustainable development, but it's definitely something that's a lot more of a broad concept. And I like that, even though, if you really favor one credential over the other, all of them can be implemented into the eco district. It's just that everybody has to be on one accord and kind of do like an integrative approach in the process of the design and how they want the district to, be as the end result.
Thank you for letting me know more about that one. I didn't know that. It's definitely one those listening might want to look into. So Kenyona, you've got the lead green associate. You aced that one. So you told me you're moving on to the lead AP next, definitely a well AP by end of the year. So tell me a little bit about these credentials. You're going to tackle them this year. What has helped you pass maybe a lead exam in the past, and what's your plan of attack? And I'll give you some tips.
Okay, so what has helped me are the practice tests. I have test anxiety. That is something that I always freak out when it's time to study for tests, time to take tests. And then I don't do really well when I don't pass the test. because then I get, oh, then this wasn't for me. Maybe I should try something else. And so I've been in the field of sustainability so long, and I've had those disappointments. Like I tried it years ago, right out of school. And that was right before they split the exam into the AP and the GA. And I missed the exam by 3 points.
Oh, no.
And so I hadn't tried it again. So the last time I have actually saw the material was back in 2009. So this one was a little bit nerve-wracking in the fact that the last time I have actually picked up like a lead exam or a lead book was back when it was like version 2.2. And there's been several versions since then. So, but because I was familiar with the concepts, familiar with the material, and familiar with it because I actually do it on a daily basis, it was a lot easier for me to kind of bring some of that anxiety down and build a little bit of the confidence that I needed to just say, okay, I can take this and really try and apply some common sense to a lot of the questions. So.
Yeah, lots of practice tests. I mean, you heard it here. I mean, some people learn best by reading their study guides and flashcards. Some learn best by watching courses or taking a class. And sometimes, though, you just got to crank away at the practice tests. And I know you're in our Green Building Matters community. So, Kenyona, thank you. I know you've gotten a lot out of the GBES education products. So I just want to say thanks. And hopefully you're enjoying the live events we have on there, too.
I will admit, I've only seen a couple of the live events because every time I remember to catch them, I missed it. But I appreciate being able to go back and look at them because I think it was one of the live events that I looked at while I was studying that kind of cracked the code on how I would, use the practice or use the material. And it was some place where you said, oh, we have all of these tools, but you just got to figure out which one works best for you. And if it works best for you, then use that. And at the time, I think part of it was me freaking out like, oh, I'm not following this testing protocol, this timeline. I haven't had time, or I've procrastinated a little bit. I haven't finished all of the lessons. I haven't finished all of the little small quizzes at the end. And then when I heard you say that, I was like, but I've been doing all right on the practice exams. And when you said it, I said, okay, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to focus on doing the practice tests because I feel like that's what works for me. And I think that's how I was able to get through everything and really be successful. Yeah, so at the time, I thought I had to make sure I had gone through all of it. I had to make sure I had looked at all the flashcards and I had to do the study guides and all this other stuff. And I've looked at those things, but I was a lot more comforted in knowing that if that's not working for me, then I don't have to, consume all of that material. Just focus on what works for me to make sure that I retain the material and understand what it is that I am testing for. So.
Gotcha. No, thank you for that feedback. For those listening, if you're going after a professional credential exam, you don't have to use all these different study tools, but you do have to put in some study time. And we've got some great material over in the community. And the live events, though, make sure you're checking out the live events. We have some really cool live events. Well, let's talk about if we had a crystal ball, Kenyona, what do you think's next? Or what are you reading up on? Or what are you excited about that you see coming up in the green building movement?
From what I see and when I talk to colleagues and coworkers and stuff, I think that, what I see next is it's already starting to happen. I do see the shift happening, and I see a lot of it going towards zero energy and water, as well as healthy spaces. I see a lot of healthy spaces. I see a lot of material, a lot of, scientific publications that are coming out about the health of buildings and how people utilize buildings, especially since we spend about 90% of our times inside of buildings, and how it's affecting not only the health of the systems in a building, but the health of the people that occupy them. Another shift that I kind of do see is into, or a lack of, but I do see in the future that it's going to soon be a focus, is building preservation and the maintenance and operation of buildings that were kind of like grandfathered before or prior to LEED. Because I see more people in the past couple of years, we're more focused on major renovations and new construction. And a lot of the buildings that have not gotten the necessary or proper transition that they are needing, they're going to start being another focus on that. So I think it's going to be a nice focus on commissioning, to tune up those buildings per se. And I think that's pretty much it as far as the next shift. But those are the shifts that, I hear about, and then I can see it, with my own eyes. I don't know how soon, but it's right now it's trickling towards that direction.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're hitting on a couple of good ones we don't talk about enough. But yeah, let's continue to tune up, to retro commission, tune up some buildings, some systems we already have. And you're right, just preservation in general. So thanks. Those are really good points. What do you think you're best at? What's your specialty? What's your gift?
That's a good question. I'm really still developing my specialty or my gift. I feel like my gift is probably being a good bridge between, either being a good liaison between the technical and administration, or the professional and the laborers, construction and the design professionals, just being able to communicate effectively and translate, different understandings and meanings between people or processes that don't necessarily mesh well, or they get a different interpretation, being able to be that interpreter. So I think that's kind of one of my specialties. And it's something that I'm trying to hone in on, whether I'm in a project or in the office.
Good. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure if you ask your peers, they'd probably say the same thing. It's kind of a different way to ask that question is, what would others say about you? But do you have any routines, rituals, help you stay productive?
I do have a few that I have started. One of my routines or rituals that I do is I do a lot of self-care to kind of keep my mind clear as possible, because I'm the type of person that when my mind's not clear, I can't mentally focus, and then I become extremely critical of myself. And most of the time it's negative of every move or decision I make, and then I just practically overthink everything. So I kind of developed this mantra where if I take care of self, everything else will fall into place. And this kind of helps me to get back organized or focused when I fall off the track from my goal. And so that's what I do. Another thing that I like to do is I like to create brain dumps and visionary boards, because I'm always thinking about what I want to do next. And I have a habit of just kind of, dwelling in my imagination and not really focusing on reality. So that's what I'm known for sometimes. Yeah. And so to kind of be more in the present, I like to jot things down so I can just, literally brain dump and then put up visuals of some of the things that kind of help keep me motivated. And then I don't eventually, waste time. Another thing that I just started doing that has been working for me, as much as it's really popular, but it's been working for me. And that's just kind of finding my most productive hours during the day. And what I find that my most productive hours are between like the hours of 4:30 and 8:30 in the morning. And that's when I get like a ton of work done, because I guess everybody's sleeping. I have no distractions, and it's just kind of like a sense of calm and peacefulness. So I've been working to try and really do that on a ritual, permanent habit, and just get stuff done early in the morning. So even if by 9:30 comes and I feel a little sluggish or sleepy, I can just go ahead and just kind of slow down until, and just continue on with the rest of my day. And I just kind of make sure that I do things right then and there when I'm thinking about them. That's been something that I am consistently working on, but those are some of my rituals and stuff that I do.
And you're conscious about it. I think just that self-awareness is so important. And so sounds like you've got some really fantastic habits. So I applaud you on that.
Yeah, you have to be conscious about it, because if you're not conscious of or aware of what it is that you're doing, how can you make the changes that are necessary for you to become successful? So, and I'm, like I said, I'm always super critical of, okay, what could I do better? Or what am I doing? Or I'm not doing enough. And, we as humans, we're always hard on ourselves. Sometimes I feel like I'm hard on myself more so. So in order for me to be a little bit more approving or giving myself more praises. I'm trying to really change my focus from being hard to saying, hey, you've done this, you've done that, you've worked hard today, so good job. And so that's the goal that I want to, the approach I want to take.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was talking to someone about this earlier. I don't know if you'd agree or not, but to me, when you focus on what's broken, you focus on the negative, you play a lot of defense, that takes more energy than if you focus on momentum and kind of forward looking and kind of playing some offense. To me, when you have some momentum, it's newfound energy. So I don't know, that's just an observation I have. If we always focus on what's broken versus really focusing on like, this is what's working and here's some momentum, you kind of get newfound energy with that momentum.
No, absolutely. And just reflecting on that, that's something that I've realized, even just reflecting on in the past. I think there's something that we've done, especially when we were in college. We just didn't realize that's what we were doing. And then we got out into the real world and really experienced it for ourselves. And you just start seeing disappointments here, or you experience failures there. And you're just like, oh, well, then I'm not good enough. But when we were in college, it's like, oh, we're just doing it. The goal is to graduate. So I don't care if we got this F. I'm going to continue until you graduate. Or I took that test. I'll take it again. Oh, I didn't pass that. I'll pass it again. We were focused. Our focus, we had a goal. And I think that's just something that we need to kind of translate into our adulthood, that's something that we don't do often. And just being able to realize that you're focusing on something positive, you don't dwell on the negative, then you eventually will get what it is that you're asking for in the long run.
I agree. I'm glad we went there with our conversation. So just a couple more things. One is a bucket list. I'm a fan of a bucket list. Maybe you have your vision board and maybe some bucket list items show up, so you're intentional about them. But what are one or two things maybe on your bucket list?
Bucket list? Well, on my bucket, because I took the definition of what a bucket list was, is something that you never thought you would do, but you want to do it. So if you get the opportunity, hopefully you will take advantage. And I think one of them, I want to become a polyglot. I think it'd be very neat to just communicate effectively and fluently with anybody. So if they're speaking in language and they think you don't know how to understand them, I want to be able to be that person that, translates. As soon as I'm talking English and then they break out in another language, I can break out in another language with them. So I think that'd be very neat. So that's one of my bucket lists, to really learn quite a few different languages, not just, one or two. And then I want to be a race car driver for NASCAR. Okay.
Where does that desire come from?
I like speed. I know it's not very sustainable, but actually, they don't use regular gas. Don't they use like a nitrogen or something like that in their tank?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you have to do one of those NASCAR driving experiences, and that's pretty fun. So I think, bucket list, you're right. It's some people say, hey, here's some things you want to do in the next couple of years. Others, it's a life bucket list, or there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. But no, thanks for sharing. Just a couple more things here. Tell us about books. Do you like to listen to books, pick up a hard copy? Maybe you listen to podcasts. Do you read industry magazines? But I'm not sure how you're consuming, but any books you'd recommend?
I am consuming them, basically all of the above. If I see a neat book, I really like, books in my hand, but since that has not been possible a lot of times, and then I've gotten into the instant gratification, I do a lot of Audible books. I listen to podcasts. I'll read on the internet, and then I have like a Nook and a Kindle app. So I'll download, books that way. Some books that I would recommend, they're not really related to sustainability, but one of the ones that I just finished reading not too long ago, a couple of months back, was Atomic Habits by James Clear. Oh. I really liked that book. And the most recent book that I've read, it's a favorite of mine. It's Matilda by Ronald Dahl. Oh, yeah. And my absolute favorite Audible was The Last Black Unicorn by Tiffany Haddish.
Cool.
So, yeah.
The variety.
It's a variety.
I loved Roald Dahl growing up, and now I've got 3 young boys, so we like all those. But since I was named Charlie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Favorite.
We'll put some links to those books. I think what I'm hearing is it's good to mix it up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So in closing, you're right in this green building career. You're getting more credentials. You've got some advanced degrees. Hey, any words of encouragement for someone that's just now jumping into this movement?
I do have some encouragement. I just like to give those that are jumping in, that the sustainability movement is very young and it's a small knit community. So it's to your advantage that if you're interested in jumping in, the best way to do it is to jump. Act on that impulse the best way you know how, because it eventually opens doors to opportunities that you desire. And to just kind of really remember to enjoy the process. That's one of the things that I am, learning now to, kind of slow down and just really enjoy and take in the moment and learn the lessons that you need to learn and really just give it your all and to just kind of focus on your own journey because everybody's journey is different. And, know that you are the one that make the decisions in how you go about doing things and what you're going to do to contribute to the green building movement. So those are the words of encouragement that I have.
Love it. No, it's been a joy to have you on, and just good luck this year with your lead AP and your well AP. Focus on those health statistics and on the well AP and a few of the kind of numbers you really need to know, the percentages on the lead AP BD plus C. But I just want to say thanks for being in our community and just thanks for being on the podcast today.
All right. Thank you. My pleasure.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At GBES.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to GBES.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.